Here's the latest TV project. Well, if anyone can guess what's in this. Requires 2 boxes when you ship it, so that's a clue. I bet this gives you a good clue. Yep, it's a Philco Predicta. It's a debutante, which is a basic model. Hopefully everything's still pretty much original as far as the wiring, and nothing's been done to compromise that. So I guess you know what's in this other box. That's a picture tube for it. And he did fully disclose to me that the picture tube checks weak. So that's what I'm expecting. So I'm going to get it unboxed and we'll take a look at it. I'll say one thing, this fella really packed this well. I've removed a lot of the peanuts that were on top. And then on top of the peanuts he had this piece of cardboard. So I'm really impressed with that. Really the screen looks pretty good. Plastic's got some scratches, which is expected, but pretty happy with the way it looks so far. This is going to be my first Predicta restoration, but from what I've read online and seen in message boards, etc., these can be really pretty beat up when you try to bring one back to life as far as the cosmetic appearance of it. But I'm tickled to death with this one. I mean, it really, everything is intact. The cables don't look covered with smoke, so that's a good thing. I'm going to flip it over here and we'll look at the back. So here's the back view, and one screw missing there, but other than that it looks good. I'm totally satisfied so far with the way he shipped it, the condition it is. I'm anxious to get started on it. This plastic is kind of like the front plastic. If I want to, I can clean that up and buff it, make it look better. And I'll tell you, it doesn't look bad right now. Now let's check this picture tube and see if it checks like he said it did. Sure, it probably does, but just to know what I have, hopefully, even though it checks kind of questionable, emissions just low, hopefully it'll produce some kind of a picture when I get the chassis restored. First thing I see is tag on the tube. This is an original tube, I would say. It says 2.68 volt. 450 milliamp Philco. Probably explains why the emission's down. If it's an original tube, it's been probably played a lot. But let's check it and see. So this tube is a 17 DRP4, Dr. Ray Paul 4. So I'm going to get my Syncor CR70 out, check this tube and see what its condition says. Well, not very good news on the picture tube. I don't know if you can tell there. If it's moving very little. So I'm just going to leave the checker on it for a while, let the tube warm up. We'll see if the emissions come up any at all. It is moving just a little, not much. So leave it on a while and come back and check it later. Alright, remove the front and the back of the CRT, and this is definitely an original tube. You can see it still has a tape here for the leads. Never been apart, doesn't look like. Remove the chassis. And while I'm not a Philco expert, this chassis looks very original. One thing I did notice here on the on and off volume, still has a tape over the back of it there. So that hasn't been worked on. The original fuse link still in it. Just a little surface rust there. Well, actually, I think that's dirt. Wiping off. But a little bit of rust on top of the transformers. I'm going to look at the high voltage cage, open it up and look in it. But looks to be very original. Rectifier tube's uncapped because the fellow had to remove the picture tube, which involves taking that tube out and removing the high voltage lead. Well, normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm so curious about this picture tube. You know, the emissions check practically nothing on it, so I thought, well, see if I can try to get it to come on and maybe see a picture, a raster. And the fuse link was open, so I replaced it. I'm going to turn it on here and see if we have anything at all. Hey, that's very encouraging. I do have sound. So I think I'm going to hook up I have the tuner still in the cabinet. I didn't take it out, so I'm going to hook up the generator and just see if I get an image on the screen. Well, that's pretty encouraging. Well, I can't get the horizontal to sync. It's all the way at the end of its travel right there. But it's trying, so I think we got something good to work with here. So I'm going to turn everything off. Don't want to damage anything. It is partially working, so a good restoration candidate. I'll do what the restorers online, I watched several of their videos. They're really informative, and they're pulling this whole circuit board out, replacing all the caps on it. And I know these couplates, they're called, right here. I'll probably order new ones for that. I'm sure they've drifted and they're bad. But all in all, very encouraging start. It's a good example of a picture tube that checks practically no emission, and yet it produces a picture. So now, granted, it's probably going to be washed out and dim, but from what I've seen here, just hooking this up temporarily, it may be a presentable enough picture that I don't have to worry about picture tube. Probably the first step is just to clean. get rid of the dust where I won't be breathing a lot of it while I'm working on it. And then I'm going to attempt pulling this board out. First Predicta I've ever worked on. I have restored several other old TVs, so I think I'm up to the task, but we'll see. As I look over this Predicta chassis, I'm going to pull the tubes out and just see if they're all Philco tubes. That might further confirm that this chassis never had any work done to it. First one, audio amp, it was a Philco. Well, vertical output's an RCA. So it's at least had a tube put in it sometime in the past. These are all super tight, so I'm going to pull them out and I'll give you an update when I get them all pulled out and looked at. Well, 3 tubes have been replaced. Vertical output tube, the damper, and the horizontal out. All the other tubes are original Philcos. So it has been worked on. But as far as solder work, parts changed, I don't see a lot of evidence of that. And I will check all the tubes. Obviously the set did come on with a raster, screen lit up, picture tube lit up, so probably they're all good, but I will check all the tubes. And the tuner, it's still in the cabinet. I haven't pulled it out to check it, but we'll do that later. Don't really need the tuner to test the chassis here anyway. So in order to get to the flyback transformer to really look at it, I can see it back in there, but the cover, the shield, high voltage shield, has it hidden. And there's a flyback. I guess that looks about normal. Some cracking in the insulation, but they say that won't hurt anything. I probably will reseal it while I've got access to it here. And this rectifier tube, it was a Philco also. I pulled it out. So 3 tubes that aren't original. Everything else looks original. And when I have this board out, then I'll do more cleaning as far as the chassis is concerned. I'll pull this shield back loose. I put a screw back in it here just to hold it. I'll pull this off and clean under that transformer. I noticed that the on-off knob, on-off volume knob, is black. And the contrast knob is white, so I don't think that was right. I think this is the correct knob. So I was looking through my bag of knobs. I've actually 2 bags of old knobs, and I found this. It has the same insert as the black one. It's the same length. So I think that would work. And I doubt if that's a Philco knob, but it could be. You never know. But I feel pretty lucky to find that. That should match the white contrast knob now. Like that. Looks much better than that black one. So, good news on that. While I had my bags of knobs out, I found 3 more. And even one was white. You know, these may, they're probably not Predicta knobs, but they have the correct insert, like the Predicta used. So I'll put them to themselves for future reference. I may need one of them sometime. Well, I'm about ready to start on this chassis. First one of these I've ever attempted to restore, so wish me luck on that. But I think I can do it. I have the capacitors. I have all of those in stock, so shouldn't be a problem on that. The couplates, I did order the replacements that the fella makes and got them in, so they're ready to go. I'm still contemplating the filter caps. I don't know. I'm going to see. Just haven't decided yet. I might just stuff them, or I might try to relocate them like several of the restorers have done. That's all the time we have for today. On the next video, we'll be pulling that board out, replacing the components and checking the resistors and making sure everything checks okay as we proceed with the restoring this Predicta. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, and we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Thanks.